this is my audience. Hi, my name is Justin Hubel. Today we're going to go over how to brew beer. Now, how many of you enjoy drinking beer? None of you? That's what I thought. Me neither. But either way, I'm going to show you how it's done and how it's easy to do as well. You're going to need to know three things. You need to know about the equipment necessary, the ingredients, and also the process in brewing beer. First, let's go over the equipment necessary. I happen to have most of the equipment here, not all of it, but you'll get a good idea. We have mashing. Mashing is the process of steeping the grain to extract the fermentable sugars. That way, the yeast have something to eat to make into alcohol. The mash tun is what we have, or that I don't have here, and it's a sideline insulated cooler like you see in football games. It's just something to hold the temperature, whether it's hot or cold, but we're using it for hot. Inside of that, you're going to need a strainer called a false bottom. That keeps all the grain inside and doesn't allow all the grain into your final product. Then you're going to need sparge water. Sparge water is just hot water to rinse the remaining sugars out of those grains. Next, we have the boiling and cooling. You're going to need a brew pot or kettle, which is something that I have here, to boil your mixture. Next, you're going to need a heat source. You can use a stove, but I use this outdoor burner. This burner hooks up to a propane tank, gets a lot hotter, a lot quicker. And you're going to need a beer chiller. A beer chiller is this guy here. That's copper tubing that you run cold water through that makes the boiling water colder a lot quicker, which the quicker the better in cooling your beer. And then the last step is fermentation. Now, fermentation is just the process of yeast converting the alcohols or the sugar into alcohol. And you're going to need a carboy for that. Carboy is just another word for a glass or plastic container like the one that we have here. On top of that, you're going to have a bubbler or airlock. It allows the carbon dioxide inside to escape, but doesn't allow the outside air in. Don't have that here, but you're still going to need it. Next, we're going to go over the necessary ingredients. That's water, yeast, grain, and hops. I'm going to start off with water. Just regular tap water is fine. A lot of breweries use a natural spring or river that has a lot of minerals in it that is necessary to brew their particular beer. But that doesn't matter. Just use tap water. We're going to work with what we have. After that is the grain. You're going to use malted barley or wheat, and that's what's used mostly, but you can also use a combination of rye, corn, rice, and those are all different flavors that give off different flavors and give off a different mouthfeel. Next, we have hops. Hops are a flowering bud. Some of you may like to know that hops are actually a descendant or a cousin of cannabis. Now, hops are actually used to contrast the sweetness of the beer. They're a bittering agent. So don't go try smoking this stuff because it's definitely not going to work. And lastly, we have yeast. Yeast is a living organism. You got to keep that in mind because yeast can actually die. But the yeast are what convert the the sugars into alcohol, a necessary process to make beer. There are different species of yeast that make for different styles of beers. That's where you get your different styles from. Some species can never come back and can actually go extinct. I thought that's a pretty cool thing to think about. And when you think about Belgium, Belgium actually has yeast that have been around for 1,000 to 2,000 years. Once they're gone, they're gone. It's pretty neat they kept on alive for that long. Now that we have the equipment and ingredients down, we can actually start the brewing process. Keep in mind that everything has to be sanitized. If you can clean it, and sanitize it anytime you can. That's what can actually kill your beer's bacteria. So, step one, we have mashing. What you're going to do is the insulated cooler that I talked about, you're going to put your grains in there with 155 to 170 degree water. Keep it in there, and you're going to do that for an hour. Once you have that, you're going to drop that into your boiling process, which is this boiler here. Turn on your heat source. Once it's boiling, you want to boil it for an hour. You can add your hops in at any time, or when the recipe calls for it. Again, that's the bittering agent, so it's not so sweet. Once that's done boiling for an hour, you want to take it off the heat source and add your your beer chiller. The chiller is going to cool this down as quickly as possible. If it's wintertime, stick it in the snow. It's going to cool it down a lot quicker, and remember, the quicker the better with that. After we're done there, we're going to add the cooled off liquid that's at 70 degrees into the fermenter. This is necessary at 70 degrees because, again, yeast is living organisms and could actually kill those yeast, which will not produce any alcohol. Once you have your beer in here, you're going to put the yeast in. Once the yeast is in here, it's going to start converting the alcohols or the sugars into alcohol, and that's going to take 2 weeks. After your 2 weeks is done, you're going to stick that into beer bottles. You're going to stick it in the refrigerator, you're going to drink, and you're going to enjoy it, because now you have yourself some beer. My name's Justin, and go brew yourself some beer right now.